Let's get started. This is a guided walkthrough for the VulNyx basic machine located on vulnyx.com. And let's get started. The first thing that we need to do, the first thing we like to do when we do any CTF box like these ones on VulNyx is we like to run an Nmap scan. And the Nmap scan is basically going to let us know what ports and services are available on the machine. And of course, we need to supply the IP address. The IP address is 0277. And we can see over here that we've got a number of different arguments we're going to run with the nmap command. So first of all, we're going to run it against all ports with this argument here, -p-. We're going to run it with 4 threads, which means it's very fast, but not too fast, with -T4. We're going to run it very verbose, which means we're going to get output before the scan is finished with -VV, and we're going to run common scripts against whatever services we find with this flag here, -SC, and versioning information with -S capital V. All right, let's run the command now. Okay, so we've got 3 ports reported over here. So there's port 22, port 22, which is running the SSH service, running OpenSSH software version 8.4. The next port we see is port 80. Port 80 is running HTTP, which is the web server port. It's running Apache software, running HTTPD version 2.4.56. Okay, so both of these, both the SSH and HTTP software is relatively up to date, which means we probably aren't going to be hacking against that software specifically. The last port we see here is port 631, which is reporting the IPP service and running CUPS version 2.3. So what is the CUPS service? Let's find out what this particular service is. So the CUPS service. The CUPS service, which stands for Common Unix Printing System, is an open source printing service that is based on IPP, which is the Internet Printing Protocol. It offers a web-based interface that allows the administration and management of printers on the network. Okay, so what we can do to access the CUPS service is we can actually use our web browser. So over in the web browser, we're going to access HTTP and then the IP address. So in this case, it's 10.02.77. We're going to access port 631. So it's going to be the IP address and then colon and then 631 and then slash. We're going to see the CUPS app over here, and it's what we can do is we can do all sorts of stuff with CUPS over here. It helps us manage printers and print jobs, but more importantly, we can go over to the printers tab over here, and then we see that there is one printer attached to this network, and it's this printer over here. It's called Dimitri's printer. So the only information we really need to get from this particular page is the fact that there is a user on the system named Dimitri. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this username Dimitri, and we're going to try to brute force Dimitri's SSH login. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back, and then in another tab, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Hydra command, and we're going to try to brute force Dimitri. So using this Hydra command, this Hydra program, we're going to try to brute force the login for the Dimitri user using this very large password list called rocku.txt. The rocku.txt password list has a list of the most common 14 million passwords, and it's going to try to log in with each one of those and as the Dimitri user over here. So the last thing we need to do is we need to specify the protocol, which is SSH, and then the IP address, which is this IP address over here. Finally, what we're going to do is we're going to give it 64 threads, which means this Hydra program is going to be running very fast. I don't recommend brute forcing SSH unless you don't have anything else that you could try on the target. In our case, this is the correct course of action, but in many cases, when you brute force against SSH, you're going to get yourself locked out. But anyways, let's run this command. Okay, so brute forcing SSH is notoriously slow. The Hydra scan came back, and the Hydra brute forcing program came back, and it was able to successfully brute force into the server as the Dimitri user with this password right here, me. So this is just one of 14 million passwords in the rocku.txt file, and it was able to determine it because Dimitri is using a weak password that can be found in a word list like this one over here. Anyways, so from here, what we can do now is we can use SSH to log in as the Dimitri user. So let's do that. SSH Dimitri at this IP address over here. We're going to remotely log in as the Dimitri user. Dimitri's password is me, and we're now in. We ask, who am I? I am Dimitri, which means we have broken into the server. So whenever we break into the server, we like to put on our scary hacker voice.
Hey guys, it's me, the scary hacker voice guy. Whenever we break into a web server, scary hacker voice guy comes out, and then we laugh maniacally like an evil hacker and say, we're in.
All right, so now that we've broken into the server, let's figure out how to compromise the server. So compromising a server is otherwise known as gaining privilege escalation on the target. And let's take a look at what the method of privilege escalation. Actually, I think I remember what the method of privilege escalation is. First of all, let's see if we have sudo permissions on the target by using this command right here, sudo-l. So there is no sudo command on this system. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out if there are any SUID binaries on the target, and we're going to just use a find command to do that. And it's going to be like this. Okay, so when we're dealing with SUID binaries, there are some binaries that need to have the SUID bit set, which means that they can run with elevated privileges in certain situations. So sometimes the SUID binaries are configured in such a way, or that they allow people to use them to elevate their privileges. What I like to do is I like to grab all the list of the SUID binaries and copy them. And then I like to ask ChatGPT if it can find any of these SUID binaries that is out of place or not common. So over at ChatGPT, I'm just going to paste in this list of SUID binaries, and I'm going to ask the question, are any of these SUID binaries unusual? Okay. So let's see. So this is what we're looking for over here. So it says user bin env, not typically SUID on most systems. If it is, investigate why it's set. Potentially exploitable if improperly configured. Okay, so this is the binary that we're going to target to elevate our privileges on the system. So what we can do is we can go to a certain website, and the certain website is called GTFObins.github.io. And this is a website where we can search up different Linux binaries and see if they're vulnerable if misconfigured. So GTFObins, over here, we're going to search for the Env binary, and we're going to specify that we have SUID permissions with it. So just click on that. And it says, if the binary has the SUID bit set, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be abused to access the file system, escalator, maintain privileged access, or as a SUID backdoor. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this binary. So SUID, privilege escalation, SUID Env. The Env program in Linux is used to run a command or script in a modified environment. So inside of any shell environment, you've got a bunch of different variables. If the Env program is running as an SUID binary, we can run a command like the above example to gain root access. So we're going to run the command, and then we're going to open up a shell, and we're going to keep our privileges. So let's demonstrate this. So over in our system here, we're going to do env bin sh -p to keep our privileges, and then execute this command. Okay, so in the new prompt, we have an octothorpe, which is an obvious, which is an indicator that we're running as a root user. If we ask who am I, it says we are root. So we've essentially gained the highest access that we can to this system. So we can redeem this.
What are you? I'm system root.
Okay, so we became root, which means we've essentially, we're very close to finishing today's exercise. So before we finish today's exercise, what we need to do is we need to go into the root directory. All right, so we're going to move into the root directory. We can see here that there is the root.txt flag. When we read this flag, we've essentially finished the exercise. But the people over at VulNyx.com have asked us not to read out these flags on live streams. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to redirect the output of catroot.txt into a file called ireadroots.txt, and then I'm going to run md5 sum on both of those files, and we see that I was not only able to create the ireadroot.txt file, but these two files both have the same file hash, which essentially means that I've read the file and I've completed the exercise. All right, so thank you very much for watching this video. This was a guided walkthrough for the VulNyx.com basic machine. And thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming.